Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fallacious Truth. This is going to be part 2 on how to mitigate a poor outcome in a divorce. This video is going to dive deeper into what I call hurdle number 1 in a several part series that you as a man will need to overcome. The first hurdle you're going to have to overcome is self-preservation. It's absolutely vital to make sure you take care of yourself during this time. It is not the time to slouch. It's not the time to go at something half-assed or only part of the way. It's not time to change up your daily routine, at least not yet. And it's definitely not time to think to yourself, I'm completely screwed, because each and every legal body that I'm going to have to deal with by default is against me. Now is the time to get your game face on. It's a time to prepare your battlefield. Now is the time to take a step back and take a look at the sum total of everything that you hold dear. Everything you care about, any part of your future, because it is all on the line. You, from here on out, are preparing for war, and this war can and will unquestionably define the rest of your life. How you prepare will make you or break you. You need to keep in mind that if she is coming at you wanting a divorce, this is something that she's mulled over, something that she's considered, and most likely already has another man in her corner feeding her ideas, helping fund her divorce. She already has an attorney. Her chessboard is all set up because she's been planning this while you were busy in your non-existent Disney fairy tale of a marriage that never actually existed. Now, as I said in the beginning, your first hurdle in this marathon is self-preservation. And for this, you need a couple of tools. If you are preparing for war, you don't go out into the battlefield empty-handed. You have a function and you have tools. Your function here is to plan and also to strategize. You need to catch up to where she is in the divorce process. Find out where her head's at so you can figure out your next move. The tools you need are crucial. The first one is non-negotiable under any circumstances and is the most important for self-preservation. If you're listening to this and you're planning this, you need to drop what you're doing, go out and get a little pocket recorder. They're like $30 to $50 at your local Walmart. Spend the extra money if you're able to and get the better one. Its clarity and better construction has the potential to help you out better in the long run. This pocket recorder becomes a part of your EDC, your everyday carry, all the time, without exception. Along with your wallet, your keys, and anything else that you carry on a daily basis, this recorder comes with you, like I said, without exception. I know that your phone is going to have the ability to record, but you don't want to rely on this. You also don't want to be seen fumbling around in your pocket when you go to use it. With a physical pocket recorder, you can know and memorize the buttons and the button sequence you need to push to activate recording. This pocket recorder is the equivalent of driving a car with full coverage insurance. Not having it is the equivalent of risking a head-on collision with a semi-tractor trailer, while you are in a simple motorcycle. In a one-party consent state, you record each and every interaction and every conversation with your soon-to-be ex, discreetly and in your pocket. In a two-party consent state, I won't say to record, but I will say that it's better to have evidence that you didn't hit her, didn't threaten her, didn't rape her, etc., and potentially facing an illegal wiretapping charge or something like that, than it is to try to explain or talk your way to the cops out of arresting you right then and there, with your soon-to-be ex lying after she's bruised herself and saying you attacked her. This is also after she has practiced her terror look and emotions after she says you threatened to pull a gun on her when you never did. This device will save your life if it comes down to it, and there is no excuse for not having this as protection. Remember, you're starting this marathon at the beginning with ankle weights on while she is already halfway done with the race. You must have the ability to prove yourself to anyone, as your word will mean nothing if compared to a woman. The next part of self-preservation here is to protect yourself from those around you. You should without question limit anyone with whom you share your divorce with until after the fact. You can't chance that she's sleeping with your best friend, and if you go to said best friend and ask him for advice, and he then in turn tells your soon-to-be ex in order to get a little more action on the side, you simply can't take that chance. Talking to a complete and total stranger is better than talking to someone you know about the intimate details and the strategy of your divorce. Information is power, but information can be currency to someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. The second thing that you need to make sure that you have is a notebook. Now, I don't mean a notebook laptop or a tablet. I mean a good old-fashioned notebook. You and this notebook are going to become best friends, and since us guys really don't like the word diary because it's not manly enough, we're going to call this a journal. This journal is your evidence. This journal is your lifeline. This journal is your reminder, and it will remind you of something that happened when you can't remember it, when you need to tell the judge or the attorney something that is vital to your case. You will write in this on a daily basis. Get used to it. Go out and buy yourself a pen that's nice and comfortable to write with because, like I said, you're writing with this every day. If nothing happens that day, you write, "Good day, nothing to report." You need to have a written record of what's going on. This will be taken as evidence much better than someone trying to trust your memory. I do recommend writing instead of typing, although I do recommend transferring everything that you write to a computer as backup, as long as the computer's secured. But I recommend writing because you remember things better when you have to pen them to paper. Studies have shown that physically writing is better for memory retention, much better than trying to type it or simply remember it. Get that notebook, get that comfortable to write with pen, and you keep them both in a safe place away from prying eyes. This notebook, once it's filled, will end up being your battle plan. It will end up being the strategic information that is vital to your victory. This journal never leaves your possession. It is never shown to anyone with the exception of an attorney that you trust. Now, in the overview, I also said that you need to protect yourself from your children, if you have children. What do I mean by this? Well, simply this. Children can be very easily influenced and manipulated. You can't take the chance that your soon-to-be ex-wife will not be using your children as a weapon against you. If they ask you a question that's out of the norm, that's a bit odd, simply don't answer it and change the subject. Women are masters at manipulation and may talk to your children about something that's completely none of their business. Those children will in turn later at some point try to talk to you about it. And if something comes up in conversation that doesn't seem like a normal father-son or father-daughter question or conversation, you as the parent don't need to answer it and you need to change the subject. To your soon-to-be ex-wife, anything and everything can and will be used against you. Sadly, your children are often the #1 weapon used for a number of reasons in a divorce. You need to protect yourself by remaining calm at all times. If something is said that pisses you off, do not show emotion. Bottle it up, take it out later by going to the gym or doing whatever you need to do for a release. Remaining calm is absolutely essential. Your soon-to-be ex can and will use anything against you. If she detects even the slightest hint of emotion in your voice in the form of anger, she could have no problem at all calling the police, making up some BS story, and naturally, the police will believe the poor helpless damsel in distress over you, unless, of course, you have that pocket recorder that we talked about earlier. You need to have it running through that conversation. Like I said, you need to have it to prove her wrong and prove her the liar that she is. As soon as divorce is mentioned by either party, you need to head right to the bank and separate your assets if you have a joint account. Ideally, if you've been planning to get out of a marriage, you've listened to these and have been planning and strategizing the best way to do it for your unique situation. And you've already done this after saying, "Honey, I have to run out real quick. I'll be right back." In either case, though, you do not do what she would do if she hasn't already done it, which is take all of the money out of your joint bank account. If you do that, it will be seen as malicious. I know, it's maddening, isn't it? She can take all of it, no one bats an eye. But if you turn around and perform the same action by taking it all out to a judge, this will be seen as malicious towards her and your children. You take half of this money that belongs to you, you put it in a separate account for yourself. If you have a safety deposit box, you take what's yours out of there and half of any marital assets that are in there. You make sure that your marriage certificate, your social security card, and any other documents pertaining to the marriage and your personal life and your children's lives are in your possession. If there are any credit cards in both of your names, especially debit cards, you cancel them immediately. And you have new ones issued with your name on it and your name on it only. This is not negotiable. If she wants the marital papers, you make photocopies of them and you give them to her. If she wants the children's SSI cards and personal documentation, you give her photocopies. You do not give her the originals unless ordered to by a judge. Possession is 9/10 of the law here. You make sure that you have them and you put them in a safety deposit box in your name and your name only. Make sure they are out of your house and they are secure. The next issue I'm going to bring up here is perhaps the most important thing I can tell you about self-preservation. Unless you have a physical document that tells you you must leave the home, you never, ever, and I mean never, ever, leave the marital residence ever. I cannot stress this enough. Pay attention! You never leave the marital residence regardless of whose name is on that deed. That is considered your residence. If she gets pissed off, tells you to leave, you don't. That is your home. You aren't leaving what belongs to you within that home, and you sure as hell aren't leaving your children. If you leave, this can and will be used against you when the judge hears that you had no problem leaving when told to. They're also going to look at you funny when you had no problem leaving your kids when you told to as well. You never leave that marital residence unless there is a legal document stating such. Your soon-to-be ex won't have a hard time getting one either. All she needs to do is make up some BS sob story, give herself a bruise. But unless you have a legal document stating that you have to leave, that you can't be around her, etc., etc., you never, ever leave that marital residence if told to by her. You have as much right to be there as she does. Nothing she can say can change that. Do not leave, and even more importantly, do not move out. You don't want anything to be seen or misconstrued as legal abandonment. Last but not least, in this section, in the first hurdle, this goes hand in hand with staying in the marital residence and is of equal importance. This woman, your soon-to-be ex, at this point she is no longer your wife. You are now two roommates living under the same roof until this is worked out. As such, you are to practice the silent treatment with her at any point, at every point, whenever possible. You do not communicate with her unless there is no other option, unless it's about your kids. Other than that, under no circumstances are you to communicate with her. This isn't to upset her. This isn't to piss her off. This isn't to get back at her for something that she's done. This is for no other reason than to cover your ass. The less that is spoken to her, the better, as speaking to her is one more reason, one more way that something can be misconstrued and taken out of context. You cannot afford this to happen. Any communication should be done through an attorney. Remember, you're at war here. You cannot risk the enemy gathering anything that's vital. You cannot risk the enemy twisting something that you have said and use it against you. Also, as well as a rule to this, you do not sleep with her at all for fear of baby trapping. You also have no idea if anybody else has been there or how many others have been there. You don't want a temporary infatuation to result in a suppressing of your guard even for a single moment. You do not even sleep in the same bed, period. By this same token, you don't get any of your needs taken care of elsewhere. You don't want the word adultery to ever come up. She can and will be able to get away with it. You won't. So keep all of your body parts to yourself and you stay separate within that marital residence. Well, that about wraps things up for this episode here. There's always going to be things that I miss or think of later that I can't put in here once the video is already published. So what I'm going to do is jot them down and I'll make subsequent videos later on just so I can get that information out there. Like I said, there's always other things that you can do, and I can't think of it all right then and there when I'm putting out the initial video. I wish I could, but a lot of times I can't. So anyhow, like, share, and subscribe. I'll have part 2, Hurdle 2, out most likely in the next few days here. So if you could like, share, and subscribe, and share this out, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, and take care.